Hello and good morning, everyone. Welcome, welcome. We're just going to ask you to come on in. We're letting some other friends into the space, and we are so grateful to have you here with us today. If you don't mind, before we get started, we'd like to acknowledge everyone and share, because these community conversations are really for us, members of our community. So if you don't mind, could you check in the chat with your name, your email address, or a phone number, a way for us to stay in contact. And if you kind of have a very interesting thing about you or your organization that you'd like to share, feel free to leave that as well. But I am Dawn Stone, the Director of Community Impact and Equity Initiatives here at the Center for Nonprofit Management in Nashville, Tennessee. My primary goal is to bring the voice of our community into these spaces and to also create space for others to share. And so we have listened to you over the past year and some of the things that you were needing as a community. And a lot of it was resources. And so we at CNM have never really held a resource call. So today I'm very, very grateful to have two members of our community who are here. We have Ms. LaTanya Channel, who will talk to you from the U.S. Small Business Administration. She will be introducing herself here shortly. And then we also have Ms. Veronica Clark, who is from our government contracting side, and she will talk to you about a number of things that she has in her world as well. So as we get started, the first thing I would like to do is open our space. And give me 1 second, because I like to do this the right way. And first and foremost, I would like to acknowledge my gratitude for being able to live and work on this sacred ground belonging to my Native ancestors of the Cherokee Nation, in addition to two other nations, Shawnee and Yuchi. May my work in this space demonstrate my commitment to justice, equity, truth, and peacemaking through shared storytelling and rituals shared from my Indigenous and African roots. I promise to bring real action and real data to the table, and I seek to learn and grow these initiatives with boots, heels, and bare feet on the ground. As a native of 37218 and 37207, I look forward to bringing in all 4 P's of our community: people, perspective, policies, problems. Those 4 things are what we bring, which result in opportunities for us to grow, share, and learn. So I thank you all for being here today. And I want to go ahead and turn it over to our esteemed guests for this virtual conversation. You will be open to submitting questions, and you'll also have a chance to interact with them on a smaller level, talking about some specific needs that you have within your own business or nonprofit. So I'd like to turn it over to LaTanya, if I could turn it over to you to introduce yourself and what you do here in this space.
Sure. Thank you so much. I'm LaTanya Channel. I am the State Director for the U.S. Small Business Administration. Some of you may know my staff, who you may have worked with, Jacqueline Merritt and Lindsay Gilmore, and they would have normally been here today, but they are doing other work for small businesses today. So you got me.
All right. Thank you so much. Veronica?
Good morning, I'm Veronica Clark, and I'm the West Tennessee Procurement Consultant for the University of Tennessee's Center for Industrial Services Procurement Technical Assistance Center, PTAC. So we got a long title, but you'll hear me call us Tennessee PTAC.
Excellent, excellent. So today we wanted to bring you two together, and I'm so happy that we're here representing more than just Middle Tennessee. This is the entire state. So as you know, we have representatives on this call today from all over the state. And even if you are operating in Middle Tennessee, some of you have other locations. So I just want to talk a little bit and just ask a couple of questions before you get into your PowerPoint presentations. And this is open for either of you. What is the biggest obstacle that you have seen when it comes to nonprofits or minority businesses in the spaces that you are in and their ability or inability to get the resources and the funding?
That's a loaded question. So I think the easier answer, number one, is access to resources. Not just knowing about the resources that are needed for growth or starting or scaling, but knowing how to access them. And trust me, on the SBA side, we do this every single day, try to figure out how we can better educate folks on how to access SBA resources. And we don't always do the best job, but I think that's the first thing. And then I think the second thing for businesses and nonprofits alike is when seeking assistance or grants or support or government contracts, having your paperwork in order before you start the process of seeking those grants or seeking those contracts. Because having the paperwork in order, and we can talk a little bit later about what we mean, is the foundation to getting seen, let alone getting approved. So I think those are the two biggest issues that I can think of off the top of my head.
I echo everything that LaTanya said. I would also add is knowing your secret sauce of what differentiates you from the next company. Because if you just start a nonprofit or start another small business, but what measurably sets you apart, being able to articulate that can kind of help you when you're trying to gain access to capital.
Excellent, excellent. So the great thing is they do have PowerPoint presentations. So we want to encourage you to stick around because you can get your questions answered, and we will talk about the secret sauce and those forms because it's serious out here. But the great news is we have resources for you. So you are also looking at someone who receives services from both of these agencies. So PTAC is my friend. Shout out to Debbie Barr in the Nashville office. She has helped me get my certifications and everything else. And LaTanya and her team helped me when I first started my business back in 2007. I had a mobile business, one of Nashville's first rolling vegan and vegetarian restaurants. A lot of people don't know us, but we were the Veggie Cafe. So the great work that you are doing, let's jump into, what is our first step? Let's just talk about a first step, because I hear a lot of agencies, nonprofit and for-profit, that come and say, Dawn, they're not trying to give money to us. I'm too small. What is a first step, an ideal first step to engage PTAC and the SBA? And then let's also talk about these COVID dollars, EIDL. I know some of that has gone away, but there are other things like surety bonds and services that you offer. So who would like to kind of jump in on that?
So one of the first steps, if you're wanting to do business with the federal government, is that you have to have that DUNS number, which is going away in early April, which will turn to the unique entity identifier. And then you have to register in the system for award management, which I will put that website in the chat box for you all. And I'll go over it too in my PowerPoint slides, but you've got to have that DUNS number until early April, which is going to be retiring. And then for the federal government, it's going to be the unique entity identifier, the UEI. I'm trying not to talk in acronyms, but that's a mouthful. And then registering in SAM. But when you're registering in SAM, making sure that you have a separate checking account and making sure that you've established your business model, which is LLC, but you all are all nonprofits. So that would be the steps. And then also looking up your North American Industry Classification System codes. So that's that 6-digit number that the government utilizes to identify your primary source of business. The one on the top of my head is like 561720. That's either janitorial, that's janitorial because 730 is landscaping. So I'll drop the link in the chat for you all to figure out what your NAICS code is, which is North American Industry Classification System code. Anything you want to add, LaTanya, to that?
I would even take it back even further, Veronica, and tell them to attend PTAC's Government Contracting 101 session. And the reason why I mentioned that is, prior to the pandemic, we used to do these jointly with PTAC, and then we got scooted away to pandemic relief. But everything that Veronica said in that 30 seconds, they cover, and I think it's an hour or 2 hours, Veronica, in the Government Contracting 101. You're on mute.
It's depending on where you are in the state. It's
There you
either
go.
an hour and a half or it's 3-hour class.
Yeah.
Give you
And I
everything.
think, yep. So I think starting with that PTAC government contracting 101 class is an excellent start because they take a deep dive into every single thing that she just said, trying to figure out what your industry code is, how to get registered in SAM. And even if you're a nonprofit, there are some pieces of that that apply to you, particularly that SAM.gov registration piece, because whether you're a for-profit business looking to do business with the government, or whether you have clients that are looking to business with the government, or if you're a nonprofit looking to get grants from the federal government, you have to be registered in SAM, SAM.gov as in Uncle Sam. It's called the System for Award Management, but it's essentially, it means if you want to get paid for whatever you do for the federal government, you have to be registered in SAM. So I think starting with that government contracting 101 session that Veronica and her team does with PTAC start. I think another start is, if not every month, every quarter, my team does a session called SBA 101. Just to understand and take a deeper dive into all the resources that SBA provides from A to Z.
And then I saw Tina put in the chat, if you have a DUNS number, will we get a unique identity number? Yes, a UEI. If you already have a SAM account, you already have the UEI. There's no further steps that you have to take.
All right, that was very good. And yeah, thank you, Xavier. One of the things that we want to do, if you do have questions, go ahead and put them in the chat because this is an interactive session for you. And we will also tie into in the resources that Abby J and I are putting together. You will have resources in there that will connect you to your local PTAC office. We'll make sure you have those and these trainings that they're talking about. So I'd like for us to go ahead and move into the actual PowerPoints at this time, and we'll have an opportunity to kind of let some of this information marinate and then move into breakouts. So who would like to go first?
Veronica, you want me to go first or you want to go first?
I'm okay if I go first because I don't know which one. Let me share my screen.
Do you want me to go first and then I can just set the tone for like grants and then make the connection to contracts from there?
Yep, that works for me.
Okay, cool. And mine is really, really high level. So, Veronica and I were chatting right before Don and Abby let you all in the room that typically when my team and Veronica's team do a session, we're typically talking to for-profit businesses and we're typically talking about how to do business with the federal government. So we were trying to make sure that we make sure that this is useful for nonprofits as well as any for-profit entities that are on here, or if you have clients for-profits. So I have a different PowerPoint today than we would normally do for SBA, but this one that I'm going to share is solely focusing on grants and potential grant opportunities that nonprofits could tap into. And please, that doesn't mean that if you have any questions or you need further information about what else SBA does, that I won't be able to provide it. But I did want to just share this information since the majority of attendees here are nonprofits. So let me go ahead and share my screen. Second. So again, as I mentioned, typically when we're doing presentations, we're talking to small business owners and we're not necessarily talking to nonprofits. So I'm glad that Don reached out to us to cover this topic because it's a conversation that probably we at SBA probably need to have a little bit more often. Here's why. If any of you were on the presentation that we did last week with the Center for Nonprofit Management, one of the first things we always talk about at SBA is our resource partners. And for us at SBA, when we talk about resource partners, we're talking about the entities that are approved and funded by SBA to provide the help, support, advice, guidance, and the hands-on, boots on the ground assistance to small businesses and now nonprofits that they need to start, to grow, to scale. And when we talk about resource partners and SBA, we're talking about a nationwide network. So what I say to you for the state of Tennessee today also applies in every single state within the United States of America. I'll give you a little bit more specifics on Tennessee, but everything I'm sharing with you applies to every single state. So SBA typically has three major, really four major resource partners that help provide that boots on the ground assistance to small businesses. So first, we're talking about the Small Business Development Center. And like Veronica mentioned, I'm gonna try not to talk in acronyms. So at the very top, SBDC, that's the Small Business Development Center. So nationwide, there are about over about 1,000 now small business development centers around the country that provide that free counseling and assistance directly to business owners. Do you need a business plan? Do you need help in formulating financial statements? Do you need assistance in trying to figure out which lender will actually fund my type of business or will fund my type of nonprofit? I don't have a banking relationship. Can you, Small Business Development Center or business counselor, help me establish that? What about competitors? What if I'm trying to open up a new business in a particular market? The Small Business Development Centers have a database nationwide to help businesses figure out if this is the right market to enter to in a particular geographic area. So there's a whole host of free resources that are available from the Small Business Development Center, the SBDCs. And SBDCs get 50% of their funding from my agency, the Small Business Administration. And the other 50% they get from their host institution, which I'll share with you a little bit more later. On the left-hand side where it says VBOC, those Veterans Business Outreach Centers, and these are centers that are 100% funded by SBA to provide on the ground, hands-on assistance to veterans and their family members who want to start or scale or get involved in small business or to create a business. Here in Tennessee, we have one VBOC. SCORE, which you see on the right-hand side, their logo. SCORE is a network, and there are about 300 chapters around the country of retired executives who can help and connect small business owners to basically their brain. They've been there, they've done it, they're retired, and now they want to give back. And a business can, and also a nonprofit, can reach out to SCORE to get a mentor who's been there, done that, to get that type of support and mentoring and guidance that's needed. In addition, SBA also funds, you'll see the logo at the bottom, women's business centers. There are about 100 women's business centers, or what we call WBCs, around the country. We have one in Tennessee. We used to have two. I'll give you a little bit more information about that later. But again, they provide boots on the ground service and support to those who are starting and scaling in business. And even though it's called a women's business center, the centers don't discriminate. They do cater to businesses owned by men as well. So again, this applies nationwide when we talk about the official resource partner network of SBA. So outside of that, the Small Business Development Center, SCORE, Women's Business Center, we also fund other entities. Often they are nonprofits. We don't necessarily call them resource partners, but it doesn't really matter for your purposes. At the end of the day, they are partners. They are approved and funded by SBA. So what do I mean by approved and funded? Essentially, our headquarters staff, depending on which office it is and which silo in SBA, will actually approve those grants, and our headquarters staff will actually fund those grants. Depending on the type of grant and depending on what type of partner, my office and my team will have some oversight role and some review role. Some oversight is greater than others. For instance, for our Small Business Development Centers, many of you know Jacqueline Merritt. She reviews every single small business development center that we have here in the state of Tennessee. Our women's business centers also go under review. But again, we also have, in addition to those partners, we have other partners. So you'll see right here in the middle where we say for-profit, nonprofit, local government, state government, and some educational institutions. Currently nationwide, as well as in the state of Tennessee, all these entities have some type of approval and some type of funding to provide resources to small businesses around the state. So what do we have in Tennessee? So in Tennessee, the Small Business Development Center, we have 14 centers. Sometimes I talk in terms of where does the check go. So the SBA check comes from headquarters and goes to Middle Tennessee State University, believe it or not. And from there, MTSU sends funds to multiple educational institutions, about 14 of them, around the state of Tennessee. As I mentioned to you before, SBDCs are funded 50% by SBA. The remaining 50% of the funding comes from the host institution. For instance, we have a small business development center on the campus of TSU. We have one on the campus of Volunteer State University. Volunteer State Community College. We have one on the campus, actually two, on campuses of Southwest Tennessee Community College, Chattanooga State Community College, East Tennessee, Tennessee Tech. All of these have a physical location with people there who offer free business counseling and support, and also free support to nonprofits. And they are funded by SBA. Here in Tennessee, we have 4 SCORE chapters. Well, one in Nashville, one in Chattanooga, one in Knoxville, one in Memphis. This is a little different because SBA doesn't send any money and doesn't send a check to the SCORE chapter. Essentially, they get free rent. So essentially here in Nashville, the SCORE chapter is physically co-located with my office here in Nashville. They don't have to pay rent for that. And again, those are 4 chapters around the state of Tennessee. Women's Business Center, SBA sends a check. So SBA sends a check. It used to be 2 Women's Business Center. One of them was hosted by Pathway Lending for quite some time. They no longer host the SBA Women's Business Center. Now WeBank, for those of you who are familiar with government contracting, Women's Business Enterprise Network, which primarily deals in government contracting, is now a host for a Women's Business Center that opened last July in Memphis, but covers the entire state of Tennessee. And VBOC, so the Veterans Business Outreach Center, we have one that covers the entire state of Tennessee and also covers the state of Kentucky. And that host is Pathway Lending. And 100% of that funding comes from SBA to Pathway for that particular Veterans Business Outreach Center. And remember, I said to you, I don't approve these. There's a committee out of headquarters that approves these grants. And then depending on the type of entity and which office and SBA headquarters approves the grant, our level of oversight could be very, very great or very, very close, or just could be pretty cursory. So what other entities does SBA fund in addition to the ones that I just mentioned? So these are some grants that are currently active. They're not as long-term as the Resource Partner Network that I just mentioned to you with SBDC, SCORE, the Women's Business Center, and the Veterans Center. So currently Launch Tennessee has a grant for the SBIR STTR program, which is a program that helps businesses that are in high tech. Ag Launch has a grant statewide to help businesses that are in the agricultural industry. Not necessarily rural, but any business that does any type of technology or anything that help advances the ag industry. Community Navigators, you may have heard about this program, which is currently a pilot program. I think it's a $100 million program and $50 million SBA headquarters has already awarded around the state for what's called Community Navigators. And this is supposed to further advance getting boots on the ground assistance to businesses and meeting underserved markets who didn't particularly get access to PPP or other pandemic-related programs. This again is a short-term grant, and SBA headquarters has awarded a grant to Build Memphis and also Daughters of Zion Bible College also in Memphis. Both of those entities will cover Shelby County. 7J, we love to talk in acronyms and numbers in federal government, but the 7J program, or where it says 7J provider, this is a management and technical assistance program to help businesses that are seeking to get into government contracting. And Ruffin and Associates is a business that's actually in Nashville that has had a contract from SBA headquarters to provide that type of assistance for quite some time. In addition, Tennessee State has a grant from SBA headquarters to help businesses that are looking to do exporting, to do international trade, or thinking about it. And again, all of these are currently short-term grants. We never know when SBA is going to open up these grants, but when they do, you as nonprofits have the ability to apply, and sometimes for-profits to do as well. It just depends on the requirements for each one. So I'm just going to go through this really quickly. These are just some of the grant programs that SBA will fund. There may be some currently on grants.gov, maybe not. I can tell you right now, the second one, Boost to Business, is currently on grants.gov. They're looking for some curriculum development for training overseas on military bases. You'll see here 7J Management and Technical Assistance. That's the one that I just mentioned. That should be coming up on grants.gov pretty soon. Here's some other grants, and I know there's lots of acronyms in here. Ignore the ones that are in the parentheses. That's essentially the name of the office at SBA headquarters and approves those grants and sends the check. But here, the STEP program, and this is the export program. Remember, I mentioned that TSU has an international trade center to help firms get into exporting. That's the STEP grant. I already mentioned SCORE and the Women's Business Center and the Small Business Development Center. Here are some other grants that may or may not be on grants.gov. I don't think any of these are currently on grants.gov as active grants. But you may have heard about the Shuttered Venues program that was a part of pandemic response, as well as the Restaurant Revitalization Grant that was also a part of pandemic response. And I also mentioned Community Navigator. See the very first one, microloans. A lot of people don't realize this is somewhat of a grant program. SBA has about 3 or 4 SBA micro lenders in the state of Tennessee that provides microloans that are under $50,000 using SBA funds, but that's technically a grant program. So that's an opportunity as well. So where do you find these grants? Grants.gov is essentially the website where you can seek and look for SBA grants when they're announced. You can find the requirements. You can determine whether or not a for-profit or a nonprofit is eligible for it, whether or not an educational institution is eligible for it, whether there's an opportunity to partner where for-profits, nonprofits, and educational institutions can come together. There was a recent grant out, and I can't remember if the date has closed, for a Women's Business Center, where SBA is specifically looking to open up new women's business with HBCUs. So all the requirements are going to be different, but they will be on grants.gov. So real quickly, this next slide just shows you some of the resources and tools that are available on grants.gov, lots of YouTube videos, et cetera. So if you go to grants.gov and you'll see at the bottom, there's like a blue banner. At the very bottom, you're going to see some additional resources. It's going to say USA spending at the very bottom where it says community. You'll see SBA.gov, and you'll also see SAM.gov and DUNS requests. Veronica already mentioned about the DUNS and also the switch over to the unique entity identifier, but SAM.gov, this is key. So Veronica will give you some more information about SAM.gov, how to register in that and what it is. But here's the bottom line that you need to know. You cannot get paid on your government contract, and you cannot get paid on your government grant unless you are registered in SAM.gov. It's the way that you get your check from the federal government, not just SBA, but any federal government entity, whether you're performing on a contract as a business, whether you're performing on a grant as a nonprofit or a for-profit. So that's real quick. I probably went a little bit too long, and I can take more questions after Veronica's part is done. So let me.
Yeah, that was great, Latanya. Very great. Let's take a little pause here and process what we just heard from Latanya. Amazing information. Thank you so very much. Yes, you will get a copy via PDF, so you can have this information to digest. You'll also get a copy of this recording. So any of you out there, don't take those notes because we got you, just unless you know there are certain things you want to ask. Are there any questions? We've got a question in the chat. All right. And so you do not have to pay for the SAM.gov registration. There are several.
Do not. If
Correct.
you were to go to Google right now and put in SAM, the very first thing at the banner you'll see is SAM.com. SAM.com is a service that's going to charge you hundreds of dollars, maybe even more, to do what you can do yourself and what PTAC can help you do for free. So anything that's related to federal government contracting or federal government grants, always look for a .gov at the end. I'm sure there's a grants.com out there as well. But you know, you do not have to pay anything at all to get registered in SAM unless you want to. That's a decision, but there are free resources available for you to do that.
Absolutely. I'm so glad you said that, Latanya, because there are a lot of companies that
do a great job of paying for ads and they show up at the top. So the naming convention you need is .gov. And PTAC is an amazing resource. That's how I got all of my credentials, all my stuff set up. My NAICS, all the stuff that they're talking about was through PTAC and the SBA. So this is good stuff. Keep asking the questions. Is there another question in the chat? Or anyone want to unmute and ask their question themselves?
I have a quick question on the score. You said that they were helping and getting that is people that are retired that want to help. Are they good at helping to find board members for?
I doubt it, but there's nothing wrong with asking.
Okay.
So, yeah, I doubt it, but you never know. You may find a mentor who's run a nonprofit and that can help you with that whole process. And also there could be some mentors that could be possible board members. But again, I doubt it, but you can ask, definitely can ask them.
Okay.
And I will go ahead and do a shameless plug for CNM. Don't forget, we also do board governance training. So I am one of the members of our board governance training team, which means I'm the one helping to train people who want to serve on boards. So if there's a way that we can get together, I can expose you to a number of folks who are looking for board engagement at some point, whether they're advisory or actual voting members. So leverage us as well.
Well, okay.
All right. Anyone else? I heard someone else. Okay. Well, we thank you, Latanya. That was beautiful. Let's go ahead and if we can, I'm looking at my schedule here. Let's go ahead, Veronica, and get geared up for our next session with you. Kind of taking it a little deeper.
All right, so this is what I was asked to talk to you all about is Federal Funding 101. As Latanya stated, this is typically a 3-hour training, but after we were discussing this morning, I just really wanted to make it applicable to you all as nonprofits. Just wanted to tell you all just a little bit about PTAC. PTAC is funded in part by the U.S. Department of Defense and is administered through a cooperative agreement with the Defense Logistics Agency. Again, our services are delivered to you at no charge. So go ahead and put in the chat that our services are delivered to you at no charge. So there are other organizations out there that do similar work to PTAC, but you may pay them $500, as you were discussing earlier, to do your system for award management profile or help you with that proposal writing or etc. But again, your PTAC team is here to assist you at no charge. So I want to introduce you to our small but mighty PTAC team. Again, I'm Veronica Clark, and I cover the west part of the state. We have Debbie Barber. So if you're located in Middle Tennessee, she's your counselor. We have Yuta Banks, who covers East Tennessee. And then we have, last but not least, my program manager, who has a statewide presence across the entire state. So I'm going to tell you how Tennessee PTAC assists small businesses. We're going to help you do that one-on-one counseling where we're going to help you get that DUNS number or that unique entity identifier. We're going to provide training such as the Government Contracting 101. We're also going to provide major conferences such as the Tennessee Procurement Opportunities Conference, where we'll help connect you with large prime contractors. We're going to help, again, connect you with large prime contractors through referrals. We're going to help you with your marketing strategy. You heard me mention earlier about that secret sauce, helping you develop and craft your elevator pitch and also that capability statement. We'll also help you understand the federal acquisition regulations, which is your policies and procedures when it comes to federal contracting. So who is your target customer? Is it federal, state, county, or local government? I'll pause for just a second to let you all put that in the chat. Who is your target customer? Is it federal, state, county, or local government when it comes to government contracting? Is it federal, state, county, or local government? So Teresa put state, federal, state, and county. That was Dawn. And the reason why I asked local and state from Ms. Price Brandy says, I have no idea, and that's okay. State and government from Tessa, state and county. I said government, state and county. Okay. And the reason why I asked this question is because depending on who your target customer is, there's different registration requirements. If you're wanting to do business with the federal government, you have a one-stop shop with the System for Award Management, or SAM.gov. But if your target customer, state, county, and local government, you have to register with every individual state and local government that you want to do business with. So it's making sure that you know who your target customer is. So yes, Don put different registrations are required. So it's important for you as you start on this journey with government contracting to understand who your target customer is. Again, if you have questions about that, you can reach out to your PTAC counselor and we can help you narrow your focus. So this chart right here is if your target customer is the federal government, it's important for you to understand how the federal government buys. They're going to buy through websites such as sam.gov, and that's www.sam.gov. There's going to be local bid boards and mailing lists. The Tennessee Valley Authority is a great example of that. They have their own individual mailing list, and so does Oak Ridge National Lab. There's going to be large prime contractors who will also have that small business plan, but that won't be applicable to you all as nonprofits because you all won't be considered small, but there are large prime contractors out there. The government, the example of a prime contractor is that the government wants to have one single point of purchase, and then that prime contractor will sub out the rest of the work. There's centralized buying, regional buying locations such as the Veterans Administration. Visit non-purchases for Memphis, Nashville, Mount Home, Tennessee, Lexington, and Louisville, Kentucky. There's going to be local purchases. So there's some contracting officers that may be buying your products or services off a credit card. So some contracting, so if it's under $10,000, then also some contracting officers have purchasing limits up to $250,000. So it's really important for you to understand how the government's buying your products and services. And then we also have the indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity contract, which an example of that is the GSA schedule. Have to be in business for 2 years and have sales of $25,000. I think about IDIQ contracts, indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity contracts in the form of I love to shop on Amazon. Every time I buy a pair of shoes on Amazon, Amazon is not putting it out for bid. They have pre-approved pricing and terms and conditions with that specified vendor on how it's going to be delivered to the client or the customer, I will say in that regards. But it's really important for you to understand how the federal government buys or how your government that you're targeting is buying, because that's going to see how you need to market yourself. Is it going to be more door to door, or are they putting it out on websites? So the government source selection team, is important to know how they buy, but it's also important to know at the federal level who's on the team. You have the program manager, and they're very similar to my program manager. They're the visionary for the agency. You have the end user. That's that individual that may or may not know that they need your products and services. The reason why I say that is because every time I'm watching television and I see the new Galaxy phone come out, I didn't know I needed a Galaxy phone until I saw that commercial, and they kind of told me why I needed it. It was an unmet need for me. You have the CEO technical representative. That's that individual that once you get your contract, they had authority to, they're the ones that make sure that you're going to do what you said you would do. And then there's the contracting officer. That's that individual that has the authority to terminate or issue or execute your contract. Who do you think is the most important on the government source selection team? Is it that contracting officer, which we sometimes will hear that called the KO or the CO, so CO or KO, the person that has the authority to enter into or terminate your contract, that program manager who's the visionary, the end user, that's that individual that may or may not need your products or services, is that CO technical representative. Who do you think is the most important? And you can just put that in the chat. We're all quiet this morning, but it's that, to me, the most important person is the contracting officer, because they have the authority to issue and terminate your contract. Everybody's important, I will say that. The one who can terminate, I agree with you, Brandy, because again, they can terminate and they can enter into that contract with you. So it's important for you to start rebuilding relationships with those individuals. So your reps and certs, this is getting into the SAM process. SAM, System for Award Management. When you're registering in SAM, they want to know, are you in good standing with the IRS? I think the question reads, do you owe the IRS any money with over the amount of $3,500 that's not on a payment plan? Are you owned by a common parent? So does another organization own you? Right there, they're looking for factors of affiliation. Are you owned by a foreign government? And who is responsible for quoting? And as you're working on your System for Award Management profile, I will say I want to provide a couple tips. Update at least once a year. Don't let your registration expire. I know we had a client recently that let their registration expire, and we had to send in another notarized letter to gain access to it. Remember your MPIN, which is your electronic signature, because there are some times that you can't go in and update your MPIN that make you start all over. Remember your password, because we can spend a lot of time trying to gain access to your SAM profile, and do make sure that the person who's responsible for quoting, that you use an email address and phone number, that regardless if the individual that is working on government contracts leaves, that you still have access to that. So those are just a couple of tips for SAM. Update once, at least once a year, but at least put on your calendar within 90 days. They do send reminders that your SAM is about to expire. Remember your MPIN, which is that electronic signature, and making sure that you do update that, or you keep your password. And then also too, thinking about your password, you have to do multi-factor authentication. So making sure that if you do use your cell phone, that you're going to have access to that cell phone, because that's another step that you'll have to take to gain access with redoing a notarized letter. Those are a couple of tips for you on the System for Award Management, just on the back office end of it. So there's the Federal Acquisition Regulation. Again, these are all your policies and procedures, depending on which form of government that you're working with. You want to make sure that you're current on the Federal Acquisition Regulations. You're not going to understand them all, but making sure that when you're signing off on a solicitation, that you do understand what you're agreeing to, because it can be costly on the back end if you agree to something that you may not have known that you've agreed to. Again, I'm going to plug PTAC, reach out to PTAC, even the Small Business Administration, if you have questions about any of the regulations that you're signing up to, because that's what we're here for, to provide that technical assistance and support for you all. So how the government buys, it's the more complex the product and service that you provide, it's going to be a request for proposal. The less complex, it's going to be a request for quote, invitation for bid, or indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity. So just wanted to show you how the government buys. Love this little pyramid. When I first started, it made no sense to me, but now it does. So just figuring out, are your services very complex? If so, you'll do a request for proposal or a RFP, again, another acronym. If it's not, it's going to be request for quotes or RFQ, or invitation for bid, IFB, or indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity, or IDIQ contract. So I want to talk to you about the steps of becoming a federal contractor. On a very high level, make sure that you establish your business model and legal entity. So being that LLC, making sure that you have your nonprofit established. You want to prepare for government registration, having that tax identification number to keep everything separate, having that DUNS number. And again, that DUNS number is going to be going away and changing to the unique entity identifier. The more I say it, the easier it will come out, or UEI, and making sure that you do have your bank account set up. You want to research on SAM.gov and USAspending.gov to see how the government's buying your products and services. You want to register with the System for Award Management and send the notarized letter. And by send, meaning upload your notarized letter to the Federal Service Desk, or FSD.gov. We used to send it pre-COVID. You want to create an elevator speech. So if you are pitching your nonprofit or your small business to a buyer, what would you tell them about yourself? Making sure that you're succinctly telling them who you are. So your name, the name of your business, a little bit about the products and services that you provide, and that should be custom based on your target customer because you've done your research on sam.gov or usaspending.gov, and then your differentiators or that secret sauce. And then also making that ask, you want to ask for something at the end, even if you're meeting with your PTAC counselor. What do you need? What do you want? Making sure that you make the ask in your elevator speech. Again, the PTAC team is more than happy to help you with your elevator speech. You want to create that capability statement, which is that one-page business resume. It should be eye-appealing, including your logo, your core competencies, which are those buzzwords or keywords around the products and services that you do provide. It's also going to include your differentiators, your secret sauce, what measurably sets you apart from your competitors, and being able to prove that. It's going to include any past performance that you may have had. Who have you done business with in the past in similar scope and size? You're also going to include just your company information. I see a lot of capability statements where you may forget to put your contact name, phone number, your email address, that website, your DUNS number, your unique entity identifier. And if you're doing business with the federal government, your CAGE code, your NAICS codes or North American Industry Classification System codes, plus that descriptor, and then any certifications that you might have had. You won't be researching any certifications available because that applies to small businesses. Then you're going to do proposal preparation and bidding. And again, PTAC does assist with your proposal preparation and bidding. I will say that we don't do any pen to paper, but we will review and analyze the solicitation with you. Again, a tool to determine your target customer is going to be www.sam.gov. And then another tool is going to be usaspending.gov. This is my contact information, but if you are in Middle Tennessee, if you reach out to me, I will refer you to my colleague, Debbie Barber. Are there any questions? I know I went over a lot.
That was excellent, Veronica and Latanya. This is good stuff. I'm smiling because if anybody is on this call and be like, this is a lot of information, this is too much, it is not. My very first contract was a government contract because they set me up and I got paid on a P card, which meant I got $5,000 within 24 hours. And a lot of times people say it's difficult, it's this, that, and the other. Let them do their job. They are here and they are great. Debbie, Veronica, Latanya, and the whole team. This state is amazing when it comes to this work. Are there any questions? We're going to take a small break and come back at 10 o'clock and have you broken out into sessions where you will get a chance to talk to them specifically about things going on in your nonprofit, questions that you may not be comfortable asking in this larger group. And then we will conclude. We will be giving you some of your time back because, you know, we're a quiet group right now because I think we're processing. So we've got, after our break, we will come back and do a whiteboard exercise where we just kind of sketch some things out and process what we've heard. We'll have some open talk, just basically what bubbles up for you, which is part of the same process. And then we're going to break out and just talk about it and then come back and then just say, what are our next steps? So a lot of you here may be a part of the Village, which is a part of the mayor's initiative on safety and gun violence. Every week we've been meeting since November 19th. And one of the things that I will be sharing with you is a tool. All right, Brandon, we'll see you next time. Is a tool about the capability statement. Maybe there was something that was shared that you're like, what does that mean? So you're going to get to ask us these questions. And we'll look to wrap around 10:30, unless you guys are like, oh no, I'm good, or I want to go longer. So we will have at least a good, healthy discussion. And we're going to come back at straight up 10 o'clock. So those of you who can continue with us, go stretch your legs, get some water, and come back at 10 for the breakout rooms. All right, we're going to go ahead and ask you to go off camera Go take care of yourself, return a phone call, and we'll see you at 10 o'clock. All right, everyone, welcome back. Welcome back. Woohoo, it's been beautiful. This has been an amazing first hour. Now we're going to go into our processing mode at this point. I know you've got a lot on your mind. So I'm going to ask Abby J to, what we need is a whiteboard to come up. And in that whiteboard, if you've never done this before, let me see how many people are left. I know some people had to jump off to go to other meetings. And again, this is being recorded, so everything that we share, you'll be able to get. The only thing that's going to be a little different is the breakout room. So you won't necessarily get to see everything that goes on in the breakout rooms, but you will get our big room discussion. So on the whiteboard, we're about to launch. Okay, can you make me a co-host, Abby J? And I think I can do it as a co-host. Possibly. Look, there we go. All right, let me see if it's gonna let me do some things. All right, so the way, well, you're just not gonna be nice. Okay, forget it then. Good, so I can only do it as a host. So what I will do, scratch chat. Here's what we'll do. We'll put it in the chat. All right, so there are 15 of us left. And what I'd like to do is just to have you, everyone type in one thing that resonated or one question you may have. What is bubbling up for you? Doesn't have to be a dissertation, a word, a phrase, a couple of sentences, an expression. So if you don't mind, let's go ahead and get that in the chat, because I think I can only do it as a host. So let's put it in the chat. What is bubbling up for you? How are you feeling? It's kind of a check-in. Oh, cool. Okay. I may not have the feature on, Abby, so we're just going to go with the chat. There's a way I can do a whiteboard, but I might need to go back in and update my Zoom, you know? It's all right. Yeah. All right, so what's bubbling up for you? Looking for grants. Randy says looking for grants for scaling social enterprise. Excellent. What else? You know, I do have a participant list here. All right. What about you, Darlene? What's bubbling up for you? Daryl? Felicia, Herman? Jackie, Keisha? Okay, that Felicia said a lot of information process and looking for grants for unlimited potential. Very good. So we hear grants is a theme. Grants is a theme. Social enterprise, nonprofits. And Latanya just put in the chat, you can set up an account at www.grants.gov. Daryl, did you come off? You want to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to say great information, just great stuff, period. What is the likelihood of nonprofits receiving grants from this type of, you know, when you're talking about federal money and things of that nature, what is the likelihood of receiving grants?
Okay, very good question, Daryl. Veronica, Latanya?
I think you need to look at the type of grant, but let me just answer your question. Very likely. I mentioned to you on one of the slides, the list of current grantees in the state of Tennessee. There is a grantee out of Memphis, that's a Bible college, that got a grant from SBA to provide support services to entrepreneurs. When I saw, and I didn't make the selection, when I saw it, I was like, wow, what do they do? And, you know, I had to take a deep dive because honestly, it's not a grantee that I would typically see. So the one thing to understand is that even though SBA is a small agency, we're still a bureaucracy. So there's not one office in SBA that's looking at all the different types of grants that I listed. Different offices, different criteria, different process, different evaluation methods. So, and that's just SBA. If you .gov, you'll see grants from multiple different types of federal agencies. So, depending on what type of grant it is, what type of capacity you have, what they're looking for, what the initiative is, I think chances are high, you just got to have your ducks in a row. You got to have that sam.gov account set up. I would have that done so that doesn't get in your way when you're trying to submit for the grant. Have all your paperwork in order, and always look for partners. Having a partner, either a nonprofit or educational institution, or having at the ready, a state government agency that may be able to support or write a letter of support. Having it at the ready increases your chances. But again, it depends on the grant. It depends on the agency. So you just got to do some homework.
Very good point. Thank you, Latanya. And a very good question, Daryl. I want to echo some of the stuff we're seeing in the chat. Keisha said there's so much information, overwhelmed, but has a smiley face. It's really good. It's good information, but it is a lot. Viva asked a question about, is a faith-based, yes, is a faith-based institution. How do we secure grants that support our social justice work without forfeiting our core values?
You got to look at that grant. I want to say solicitation because my brain is thinking contracts, Veronica, but you have to look at that grant announcement, which says, this is what the federal government is asking you to do. And then you have to make that determination whether or not your core values meet that or not. I will say, again, I'm speaking from the perspective of the federal government. So, every 4 years, there's a chance that my boss is going to change. Whoever's in the White House is going to change. And different administrations work differently with faith-based institutions. I know that currently in the Biden administration, many different federal agencies are ramping up Office of Faith-Based Initiatives offices. So that could lead to grant opportunities, greater grant opportunities that might not have been available in the prior administration. So that's a question that you'll have to answer when you look at that. It's called a notice of funding opportunity in grants.gov to see if it matches or meets your core values. But faith-based institutions are definitely eligible for grants. I mentioned to you the organization in Memphis, a Bible college that just recently got a grant from SBA headquarters.
All right, excellent, very good. And Herman said, catching up, but dollars are bubbling. And Viva said, thank you very much. Yeah, it's a process, and I will tell you, as a person who was a part of funding for a faith-based organization, yes, you have to do your homework and you have to see if it aligns, because sometimes they'll have clauses in there that state a certain metric has to be met, or an accommodation that may not align with your faith, mission, and vision. And then you'd have to make a hard statement. Randy, did you want to ask a question there with Rest Stop? Good to see you.
I just wanted to iterate, everybody's saying about get your EIN, your DUNS, your SAM. We have an OVC grant and have for 2.5 years as a faith-based organization. We did a lot of work, but there are a lot of grants that come through. If you don't have your EIN, your DUNS and all that already set up, you're screwed. Trying to do all of that plus prepare a proposal is going to be out of the question. But we found an OVC grant. It aligned with our core values. We found partners to meet needs of expectation that we were not able to meet because of the niche that we work in with women. And so we found other partners that work as a referral source. So when we have something we can't meet the need of, we have referral partners and MOUs and all of those things that we work with. So yeah, you can get a funding, but get all of your documents in RUD, get your EIN. So when you go to grants.gov, you see something you want, it takes 5 of us to administer the OVC grant that we have right now.
Thank you for that, Randy. That's very important. So we talk about the value of collaboration and partnerships, a MOU having a memorandum of understanding with agencies that help you support the work that has to be done. And so Latanya, Veronica, both of you can probably shed light on this. A lot of times when I'm speaking with entrepreneurs and other nonprofit agencies about getting federal funding, a lot of times they get discouraged. It's like, oh, I didn't get it. But again, someone will be prime. Prime is the person that actually gets the contract, right? What I do is I go after the prime person who gets all the money and try to do exactly what Randy said, be a partner. So I say, can I be a sub? And what it is subcontract on that. So if there's a $3 million entity out there that is granted to one agency out of DC, I get on the phone and get an email and I send them my one pager and I tell them what I can do, because I know a lot of times when it's on a very large scale, they're going to need people like me in a position that can help. And they may have been my competitor on the bid, but now I'm asking to be a sub on that prime contract. Yeah, I want to add anything else? And somebody else, was that Herman? Were you about to talk, Herman?
No, I'm just listening in. I accidentally hit unmute, but
Okay.
I'm my bad, Don. I'm just taking it all in. And
Hey, it's good to have you here, Brother Herman.
yeah. I'm soaking it all up. Appreciate you.
Yes.
On
So
that-
go ahead.
On that, I would just add, when you're going to those large primes that are either winning the grant or winning the contract, make sure I keep saying the word secret sauce, know what you bring to the table, because you want to make it a reciprocal relationship, that you're giving them something. You're asking for something, but you're giving them something as well. So I always tell people to do that SWOT analysis so you know you can shore up their weaknesses.
Yes. That is so important, because again, you have to know what your secret sauce is. Like my secret sauce, I'm a trainer. So my number stays the same. So I'm competing with multi-million-dollar companies when I go in, but I'll still go in as a prime. Little bitty on me, my little corporation will march up that ladder, submit the paperwork and do the exact same thing. And when I don't get it, I go to them and see where their opportunities are, because I also was a part of it, and say, hey, I can handle your Southeast region, right? I can do all your training through the South because I am Southern and I also have the same thing. So, I can walk through those doors, whereas you may not be able to do that. I actually tried to be prime on a project out of Hawaii because of my naval affiliation. So, you can find ways, and that's called relatability, y'all. Everybody has a way to relate to whoever is prime on that account. So what I want to do is kind of help us get away from that scarcity mindset, because a lot of times that's what nonprofits come to me with. I can't do it because I don't have this or I don't have that. You have the resources here. You have Veronica, you have Latanya, you have us. So let us know how we can help. So I want to go ahead and break us out into 2 groups. And what I want you to do, you're going to be in, one set will be in with Latanya, the other set will be in with Veronica. So I want y'all to ask some of those questions, and we're going to come back in 10 minutes and we'll wrap around 10:30, 10:35 at the latest, and give y'all back some time. But I want to thank all of you who have come into this space, who have allowed yourself to be seen and heard. And looking forward to connecting with you. I will also throw my information in the chat if anybody needs help or resources. That is my job, is to help you. So what I need for you to do is to come to me and be open about where you are. If you need a back office and you can't get your stuff together so you can talk to Latanya, talk to me first. I'll make sure you get it, because I failed 100 times. I've had my DUNS and all that stuff mess up and expire. I've lost my numbers, but my PTAC, my Veronica, who is called Debbie Barber, kept all my information. So when I lost it, she didn't. And I was able to get back in within a matter of days. So I didn't lose any traction in my business. So I want y'all to understand this stuff is real that they're sharing. I'm going to go ahead and put us all in these groups. And this is for you to ask those questions and kind of talk about your scenarios. Not often do we get experts of this level in spaces for this amount of time. So again, I thank you both, Latanya and Veronica. This has been a game changer for all of us. And I want you to know that. All right, I'm going to assign you now. Any other question before we move out into your groups? Okay, see, here I am. Add around, there we go. All right, it's just allowing me to assign. So even number, it's gonna be beautiful. There we go. I'm about to open the rooms and you've got 10 minutes. I'll check in at 10. If we need to take another 5, we will. But you've got 10 minutes to just kind of talk and let's go. See you back in 10.
Dawn, it won't allow me to join.
Okay, I will put you in. Let's see. Alicia, let me try to get you over. Okay. Let's see if it'll allow you. It won't let you go to a room at all?
No, I hit join and it just sat there and came back to your screen.
Okay, let me do it again.
Okay.
See if it'll let you go.
It looks like she was able to go.
Yeah, good deal.
Good job.
Oh yeah, this is fun stuff.
It
This
is.
is what
it
we
is.
do.
It's truly beautiful to see the conversations that are all
Oh, yeah.
happening.
Will this email be,
Say that again.
will the, this be recorded? I'm sorry.
Yes, the video is being recorded. You will get a copy of that recording as well as all the resources that you've seen, including the chat and the web pages and the PowerPoints from our 2 speakers. So welcome, welcome. Glad to have everyone back. We just want to hear what, I heard some good discussions, but if we could get a report from the 2 different rooms, and then we'll have some closing words from both Veronica and from Latanya. Everyone's back, right? Okay, I got it. Good deal. So let's hear from Veronica. Let's hear from your room. What were the conversations? What bubbled up? What questions did we have? What discoveries?
So there were a couple comments about helping somebody just get started. So my advice to that individual is, remember, it's a marathon, not a sprint. Kind of just set goals for yourself. We talked about setting goals for yourself to figure out a checklist of what are the free things that we can get done and what are those absolute things that we have to pay for that are outside of our wheelhouse. And then 2, we talked about websites and the different, and I think it was Randy talked about how he had his website designed through Trevecca for a smaller fee with a class doing a college students doing it for him. So that's primarily what we talked about in our breakout. You're muted, Dawn.
So thank you for that. Were there any notes from anyone in Veronica's session? Anything else that you'd like to add? That was a great summation. That's what she does. Any ahas? What about a to-do list? Anybody get to-do lists? Anybody knows me, I love to-do lists.
Mine wasn't a to-do, mine was an aha, like, so I want to go back, since we're already on grants.gov and all that, and I've never looked at the SBA for a grant that would help to add that rocket fuel to our social enterprise. We started it last year. It's very, very small, but now we need to scale it. So we're a woman-founded, women-directed. I am the only male on the staff on the campus anywhere, and finding that grant on SBA to help move that into the next phase of empowering these ladies that come to us to work and earn money. And that would be a great thing for us.
Excellent. Thanks, Randy. Anyone else, any other comments from that group with Veronica? You had some really good conversations. All right. All right. What about team 2? What do we hear from LaTanya's group? When I came in, Herman and LaTanya were talking. Daryl was, yep. I was like, okay, y'all tell me what that was about. What did y'all discuss?
Well, I didn't know if LaTanya was going to jump in. This was Herman. Didn't know if LaTanya was going to jump in first, but I'll go ahead and jump in. I learned that, first of all, I probably hogged up all the time, but I was just asking LaTanya about ways that we could get grants for financial literacy and wealth literacy and things of that nature. And she pulled up some great resources. But the aha moment, the thing that hit me like a ton of bricks was the fact of tapping into the CDFIs. That's one place I have not been and have not done is tap into CDFIs. And I've got some really good connections in the CDFI space. And so so that's one thing that I will be doing today is cultivating those relationships and getting in there and talking about ways that we can both benefit from what we're doing at Elevated Development.
Excellent, excellent. Who else? What were some other ahas or some key learnings? You guys had databases open and everything.
Yeah, I would say just an excellent source of information, places to go, things to do, and more importantly, making sure your house is in order before you apply to anything for some things. So I just take it and absorb it and can use it. I'll also like to say this, Don, my shout out to you because I've been super busy since getting on the grant station for Center for Nonprofit Management. And one of the things I can truly say, I don't know what awards will come back, but it'll never be said that Why We Can't Wait didn't apply, because we're in the game.
Yes.
And a lot of young people will benefit from it as well.
Absolutely, Daryl. I will have to say, Daryl was awesome. He's one of the first people when I put my email out there and said, contact me. How many sessions did we have there? About 3, 4?
Yeah, before you put your feet in the sand for the vacation.
Yes. So he took every resource and went after it because he came with his plan and he said, I know we're losing X amount of money in 2022 and I need to get that back and then some. And so I would like to say thank you, Daryl, for listening and allowing me in my audacious list of goals for people. You actually did it. He went to Grant Station, uses his membership and applies. He also contacts all of his resources and people on a regular. Even funders have talked about you. So I know you're getting around and that's a good thing. So if anyone out there is needing some information and resources, not only do you have LaTanya's information, you'll have her PowerPoint. Not only will you have Veronica's information and her PowerPoint, you also have us here at the Center for Nonprofit Management. And since I sit on staff, we also have Kelly Braniff, who is our Director of Officer of, what is it? Kelly, I can't do all of our titles.
Chief Partnership Officer, but I go by Kelly, so.
Kelly is our Chief Partnership Officer. So she's knee deep in this stuff every day, just like, Daryl and everyone else on this call. So I just really want to thank all of you for being attentive. It was a lot of information. Thank you, Kelly, for being here. Thank you, Abby J, for hosting us as well. She's our coordinator over the consulting piece. If you ever need anything from the Center for Nonprofit Management, I am here, and so is our entire team. Remember to leverage who's on this call. Look around. Felicia, you say you need things. Y'all give us a call. Because like Daryl said, I have information. and I will overload you. But as long as you need it or have questions, the three of us are here and also lean on one another. So we are thankful for all of you being here. I'm going to shut my mouth and let LaTanya and Veronica say their last words, and then we'll adjourn for the day. Who would like to? Veronica, I'll go with you first this time.
I just want you all to remember that we're more alike than different. That's by Maya Angelou. So as you all are on this journey working on your nonprofits, make sure that you do knowledge share, because you never know whose experience may assist you. So make sure that you should help each other, create like that community to where we're able to help each other. I think that's important to remember as you're on the journey, that Daryl may have a question, but Felicia asked, but Daryl may be afraid to ask the question. So ask those questions when you have the experts in the room, because again, at the end of the day, you all just want to be successful nonprofits and you want to give back to the community. Those are my closing thoughts.
And I'll just add that thanks to Dawn and her team for reaching out to us a few months ago, because what we locally in the Tennessee SBA office hadn't been doing was sending over notices when we found out that headquarters was issuing a grant. Starting today, we're going to make sure you get that, Dawn, so you can disseminate it. And then two, I mentioned this in our breakout session, get yourself an intern. Send that intern to Veronica's class on how to register in SAM. Send that intern to, any classes and courses on how to get SBA grants. Many times when SBA puts out a grant announcement, they'll do an info session. Send that intern to the information session. Send that intern to grants.gov to start compiling information to get to you, so you can spend your resources and time elsewhere, but use that intern to start taking this deep dive and taking, some of those trainings to get just the basic stuff to you. So that's it.
That's so beautiful. Thank you again, LaTanya and Veronica. Thank all of you for being here. We will make sure you get this information. It was a lot, but it was truly worth it. Watch this video, share this video. Like Veronica said, it's important for us to all be uplifted, edified, and taken to the next level together. There are going to be a lot of things that we introduce at CNM that's going to require all of you to be at the table. I'm all about building. I have a toolbox and you do too. So we're going to continue to do our work. If you're interested, we have multiple community conversations. They are found on our website at cnn.org. Go to events, sign up. A number of you have free memberships. Take advantage of that, or a discounted membership. Take advantage of that and let me know how I can help. Thanks again, everyone. I'm going to give you back these 20 minutes and enjoy the rest of your day. Have a good day. We'll see everyone soon. Thank you.